everyone, and welcome back to the podcast where we prod the sheep and beat the wolf. This is episode 162, my interview with Frog and Fable. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited for this week. This week, we're taking a break from our Revelation series, where we've been looking at what the book of Revelation means and how it's a blessing, which is the verse that we covered last week. So if you're just checking this out, you'll know we're not very far. We're only in verse 3, but there you go. I'm super excited this week to have a brand new acquaintance, friend of mine. We just met. His name is McAllister, and he is starting a Christian tobacco company, which is super exciting for me to be able to talk about. I want to introduce him to you now. McAllister, man, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So tell me, man, a little bit about yourself first and foremost. Introduce yourself to us. I mean, I've had 30 seconds of talking to you so far. So tell us, man, who are you?
Absolutely. My name is McAllister Seitz. I grew up in Indiana, one of 7 kids, come from a fundamental independent Baptist background up until just after college. So I went to Grace College for marketing, international business, traveled a lot doing international studies as far as like exchange student, traveled as much as I can. I love to travel. Got married right out of college with my wife, Sierra, who we have 4 kids with. And after marriage, I come from a very fundamental Baptist background. She was very much into John Piper and Calvinist. We had a bunch of discussions, and she and I sort of came to a head where she was like, listen, if you're not like Calvinist, like I'm really struggling to engage with like your beliefs type thing. And so I was like, well, I love my background as a fundie because it takes a lot of heat, especially people who transition from fundamental Baptist to Reformed Baptist. They're like, oh man, those fundies and their weird things. No, I'm really appreciative of that because we had just a super healthy appreciation for scripture memorization. And so during that time when there was like debates going on between her and I was like, I have all this scripture memorized. Like we love the scripture. We, appreciate it. We try to apply it best we can. But at one point I realized I don't think I'm right. Like I'm winning the arguments because I just can back up with more scripture than she can. She's trying to relay arguments she's heard on like podcasts and debates, and I'm like, well, I've got the scripture memorized. I have specific verses that I can quote to support my argument. But at one point I was like, I don't think I'm right. I think that I actually believe that, God is in complete control of everything. Like I believe that, but I'm trying to have this weird avenue where I can say God controls everything, but we have like not complete free will, not Pelagian, but it's like Arminians, like, oh, God works in our heart and all that. And I came to the conclusion, like, okay, I think that predestination, which is in the Bible, I believe that these things are probably true. And that was a very humbling experience for me on this journey because, one, whenever you make a shift theologically, that's a big deal. And then, 2, I had to admit that my wife was right. And I tried to do the thing where, okay, I'm just going to slowly not bring it up, but slowly give more ground, until eventually, and hopefully it'll stop getting brought up so much, so eventually it gets brought up again. I'm like, oh yeah, I believed that for a long time. I can look back and like, see how I've given up ground, but she was not about that. Like every time I tried to like give up a little ground, like, okay, I'm going to start this process where I'm going to take away the joy of victory, because I'm going to give away just enough ground where it's not a momentous leap. It's like, And she wouldn't let me have that. She was like, no, you need, like, where are you on this? We need to talk. We got to straighten. She's like, okay, let's just give it a little bit of time. Let's think about it. And she's like, no, like bringing it up constantly. And I'm like, okay, fine. You've won the war. Like, I won some battles. You won the war. I'm on the same page as you now. And then, so I bring all that up because there's been a long journey for us theologically where we first got married, where our faith was very important to us, but we have come a long way, and we moved for a job, and then we were at a church that was very theologically shallow. And so that change in me really was like, well, we need to be living this out in every aspect of life. It doesn't make sense to go to a mediocre church that's whole operation is to reach lost people. It's like they're not preaching to us, and we need to have a more full-fledged idea of what church is, not just coming together and here preaching. It's like, okay, this is edification, this is part of our sanctification, this is the church is an authority in our lives. And the people, we were going to a very large church, and it's like the leadership doesn't even know who we are. The church has no authority in our life because the authority has no interests in our life. And so we moved again to be closer. Like, it wasn't a huge deal, but we started going to a non-denominational church. It's Reformed Baptist, Pastors Baptist. They're just not a part of any denomination. And we started going there, getting plugged in. And so we were like, well, if we're going to be going to this church that, this is the biggest thing in our life, our relationship with God, our worship of God, church is the outlet of that and how we serve. We should be as close to the church as possible because the church is serving the community, and we want to be in the community that it's serving so that we can share people with the gospel. We can make sure that we're taking care of the people in our community. And so I would say what it all leads to is who I am is I'm on a journey of sanctification where I'm trying to lead my family well, love my wife, serve my church, and the byproduct of doing all those things is also taking care of my community and doing what I can to make the world, beautiful and wonderful to be a part of.
Yeah. So you got into Reformed Baptist just through these conversations with your wife, or at least Calvinistic, at least.
Yeah.
How did you go from there to the deep bog of post-millennialism? How'd you get there? Because, I wouldn't think many fundamentalist Baptist churches are going to be leaning that way.
No, definitely dispensational pre-mill, I would say. That was always kind of like up in the air. It's like, oh, are we pre-trib, post-trib? I was like, I'm pretty sure pre-trib. But eschatology was nothing that really stressed me out. I wasn't really caught up in it like some dispensational sort. It's like, this is a huge part of who we are. It's like, well, no, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I remember being on a car ride, and my wife and I were listening to the first season of King's Hall, and they were talking about partnering with, with people who believe in the rapture. They're like, okay, it's like, if you're going on this journey of eschatology, it's like, we're post-mill, this is what we believe. They laid it all out, and they're like, we will partner with the disputes who are like, oh, you need to be working, so you don't you're working when the rapture comes. And I remember thinking, I was like, okay, what is this other line of thinking that they're talking about? It's like, what is this building? Because in my mind, it's like, well, yeah, in my church, we started schools. I think that dispensationalists get a bad rap. I'll start with that. There's a lot of things like, oh, if you think that Christ is coming next week, you're not going to build something that takes 10 years to build. That's oftentimes the argument against it. And I didn't think that, but I did. I saw where they were coming from, and I was like, okay, how long is my view of building? And as I was doing some research, when I say research, people say, oh, I did my own research. It's like, I will admit, I listened to some podcasts. I think I read one book. I can't even name what it was. But I listened to some debates, and I had a friend who had just recently become post-mill who runs Eschatology Matters. And so he was talking to me about it. And it wasn't like, okay, I've done all the research and I've concluded that this is the true and right path. It was, I've stuck my feet in the water, which is eschatology, an ocean. And you have some people that can swim, but it's an ocean. It's like no one's gathered the depths of what eschatology is. We have a rough idea, and some people might be upset about that, but it's like we've got an idea of what it is. It's in the lake. It's not an ocean. We'll scale it back. It's like we have a really good idea and you come a really good grasp, but there's a lot there. And so I felt very comfortable with my feet in the water, walking around, splashing a little bit in the very shallows. I'm like, okay, what would be the most honoring way to live according to the Bible? And that is a very long approach to life where you're building the kingdom slowly over time, taking the steps to set up your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and not skipping what takes time and effort for the sake of convenience. So instead of like, oh, we're not going to build a cathedral because it's going to take 100 years, we're just going to set up a bunch of mini mall churches. It's like, okay, let's not forsake the long approach so that we can have the instant gratification of building right now. So to answer your question, it's like it was just a lifestyle change. I looked at it and I was like, what is the long term that, like, what would the Bible want me to do? And I was like, I think it would want me to be post-millennial, where I'm building and I'm thinking 100 years down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of my critiques of dispensationalism on this show is a critique of the end of their theology. If you take it to its logical conclusions, then you would basically live a defeatist life, and you would live basically like you're trying to escape. I'm really glad to know that is not how it impacted you. Man, there's so many people I've talked to though who've been like wrapped up in that kind of doom and gloom, and not seeing the necessity of building like you're talking about. Like I've talked to even pastors who are like, our job is to just pull as many people out of the fire as we can before the whole thing collapses. And
right.
And unfortunately, what's happened is for 50 years or so, 100 years, whatever it is, we've basically had this view of hyper evangelism without discipleship, and the entire church has become biblically illiterate in the process, which is why we see culture gaining ground so much, and why we see the church actually retreating. And COVID was a really good litmus test for some of these things as well. So it's really encouraging to hear, like, just that these things are central to kind of who you are and who you've been, like, who God's been sanctifying you to become over the last several years, which leads us to kind of this business venture, right? That you guys, I don't know how many of you there are, but a group of you got together and decided, hey, we should start a tobacco shop. Help me figure out how you got there.
Absolutely. So there's four of us. There's Kevin, Seth, Jared, and myself. And Kevin and Seth are cousins. They both are avid pipe smokers.
Yeah.
Kevin also a huge pipe smoker. I am still pretty green in the ears. I smoke very sporadical. I'm a social smoker, but I've only been doing it for like a year. Yeah. Very novice, very like, oh, this is nice. And they're like, oh, would you picking up those subtle hints of this? And I'm like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's a pleasant time, and I enjoy feeling like a dragon. So, just blowing smoke, that's why I do it. It's an enjoyable time. So Jared and Seth, they're in the truck one day smoking, like, we should start a pipe tobacco business. And they're like, yes, that's it. That's the play. And Kevin goes to Jared's church. Seth goes to my church. And they brought Kevin on because he's very smart with tobacco. And a good palate for it. And they're like, okay, we're going to have you be the blender. We're going to take care of business stuff. And they're telling me about the ideas. Like, okay, we're going to try to cut out some of these carcinogenic additives that are constantly thrown in there. Some of these steps that don't really do anything for the tobacco, that they do precautionary stuff. Just industry has continued to push certain things, and there's just all these ways we could make it more natural. It's like, and we're going to focus on America. It's an American product. We want to lean into the heritage that we've been given and not like shrink away, which I think is happening a lot the past couple of years. Of like, we're constantly told to be ashamed of everything that's happened in America. Don't be proud to be American. So you've got one group that's like, I don't know why I'm proud to be an American. It's just like, but the flag, we're proud to be an American. We're not standing on anything. It's just like the concepts. Like, you got to be proud to be American. Then you've got people who are like, you got to be ashamed to be an American.
Right.
And then we're like, there's a lot that America's done that's just excellent that we'd like to highlight. We want to bring in the history, the heritage, just the legends, the folklore. America is just a very cool place with a lot of mythology in and of itself, as well as just super interesting history. So like, it's going to be American. So we're going to be Christian. And I'm sitting on the outside. I'm like, well, I have nothing to bring to the table. Like,
that leads me to a question, right? Because I can't imagine your fundamentalist background where you're going to church and in the parking lot there's men smoking pipes or anything else like that. Like the best way for someone, what is it? The joke. The best way for you to have someone not drink your beer is to bring a Baptist with you or something. Like I don't remember what the joke is, but to my point, like how'd you end up like moving from there to there? Because like those two worlds don't seem to connect to me.
Absolutely. So, did not drink, smoke growing up. My parents were not opposed to drinking. They're just like, we're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so, wine on occasion. My grandma drank wine, very sparsely, but both my grandparents did that. And my parents were like, well, it's not sinful to drink. We just don't. We don't. Smoking was really out. Even now, my mom's like, I can't believe you. Like, I wish, like, I'm excited for your business. I just wish it wasn't tobacco. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm not selling cigarettes. Like,
Right.
there's difference. There's degrees. But
and just maybe for those listening, because I do smoke a pipe as well, there is definitely a difference between cigarettes and pipe smoking. Cigarettes are carcinogenic. You inhale them into your lungs. They're terrible for you. And just nobody should smoke cigarettes. They're terrible. Pipe smoking is different. You breathe the smoke into your mouth. You taste the different flavors. Like you said, there is something boyish about breathing out smoke. I mean, it's just kind of cool. So I love when the light from the blinds causes that little wave and ripple effect. If you've ever done that before, where the light beams hit the smoke, it's really cool. Anyway,
absolutely,
just to let people know, like, we're not talking about smoking in general. I don't even really love cigars. I love the pipe. I think it's a glorious. It slows me down and helps me relax and enjoy. But anyway, I didn't mean to jump. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, that is a great point. And there was a study done in the 70s that it's like, okay, compared cigarettes, cigars, and pipe tobacco on like your living, and it's like cigarettes, drastically reduce your life. Cigars reduce just like a little bit. Cigars are still, not that bad. And then like pipe tobacco that basically like had no effect. It was the same or like you either live the same or live longer if you smoked a pipe. Yeah. So it's like there are studies that vindicate that stance of like, oh yeah, pipe tobacco is better for you. People like, oh yeah, tobacco is better for you, but it really is. So it's kind of funny because there's just certain things in your life where you're like, oh, I don't do this thing. Like, I've never done it. I have no interest in doing it. And then all of a sudden you're like, when did I start doing this? It's just all of a sudden you're like, well, yeah, because my brother got all the brothers' pipes for his wedding as a groomsman gift. So I got this pipe and we smoked once. Like, as groomsmen, we smoked once by the lake, and people are like, well, this is kind of fun. But no one was like, well, I'm going to start being a pipe smoker now. Everyone just like had their pipe and like once a year would be like, hey, do you want to go smoke on the beach? On our family vacation, like once during the entire vacation. And then when I met Jared and Seth, they smoked more often, like whenever we hung out. I was like, well, I got a pipe. I can smoke too. And it was just one of those things you slow down, you're taking deep breaths, you're outside with the boys, and you're talking about life, and everything just slows down. And it's not sporadic. And even though I'm not like, oh, I really need to smoke, I'm just, because one, when you smoke a pipe, that's not really the feeling you get. You're not like, I've got to have that pipe. It's just like, I look forward to a time where I'm just breathing deeply. It does feel nice. You're breathing slowly and taking everything in. It's a good time. But yeah, it just happened sort of all at once. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this fairly regularly. It was only like a couple times a month, but it was like, yeah, this is nice. I appreciate this. And so they're like, we're starting a pipe tobacco company. And I was like, I've got to get on this ground floor. And so I'm like messaging them ideas because I do have a marketing major. I don't have a marketing background because when I got out of college, I everything was sales. They're like, hey, marketing position, and it's like it's just sales, door-to-door sales. They're like, oh, this is a very personal one-on-one marketing, and it's like I'm going door-to-door sales. This is what it is. And so I didn't get into sort of the position I wanted, and then I was married and I started having kids, and so I was working wherever I could. My wife and I were trying to travel, so we weren't trying to get like career jobs right away. And then it just sort of out of necessity, I was just working non-marketing jobs, and then COVID hit, and then everything was crazy. And then my wife, this is a weird tangent, it takes a second. I'm sorry, but it does play into sort of the background of where I am. My wife was like, oh, in Northern Indiana, RV jobs pay really well. And so manufacturing RVs, and it is an up and down career. But if you can make it, and if the season of life is good, you make a lot of money very quickly. But just last week, like a whole series of plants closed down, 700 people lost their job. Like there are risks.
Yeah.
But when we came, I was like, okay, I'm looking for a job for this summer. And we're going to move up here for the summer, spend some time with your family, and I'm going to move back. And the first RV plant I walked into, they're like, yeah, we're working 4 days a week right now. We start at 5. We get down at around 11. Typically, everyone in the plant's making about $1,800 a week. And I was like, on a 4-day work week, 6 hours a day. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, how do you have any openings? Like, I was in Indianapolis, and people like would be thrilled making $45,000 a year, working a 45-hour work week. I was willing to move to Ohio at the time for like $50,000 a year, working like 50 hours a week. I was like,
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I was desperate, and I walk in, and they're like, yeah, this is how much we're paying, and it's going to be going up once we like. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I will make it here. Like, and they're like, it's really hard to make in this industry. I'm like, yeah, but for $1,800 a week, like I will learn how to make it. And so I've been in the RV industry ever since. So I haven't used my marketing major because I actually fell in love with the manual labor of it, the intensity of the work environment you're going. Like whenever you finish the units that you were supposed to do that day, you get to go home. So if you're doing 20 units that day and you get done at 10, you clean up and you go home. If you're doing 20 units and it takes you till 1 o'clock, you're there till 1 o'clock.
Right.
But there's that incentive of you got to go fast. So when I went into the industry, they're yelling at people. Different plants are better than others. Some plants are like, we don't yell here. We encourage, we go, we help out. Others are just like, you need, and they just start cussing at you like, I want to go home. And so it's very intense. It's a very fun industry. It has ups and downs, but if you're like a young man, like I need to take a swing, I need to get something going, and you're physical, you can work with your hands. I'm like, okay, move up to the Goshen area, Goshen, Indiana, Ligonier area. There's some decent cheap housing. You can get a job with no education if you can like convince someone to take you for like, you can make easily, $1,200 at a crappy plant, working 40 hours a week. And it's like, okay, if you just need to start something. But if you get good at it, you can be making, I think the plant I'm working out right now, we're working 5 days, we're going down to 4 days, so that's the up and down. But on a 5-day work week, I make anywhere from 2,000 to 2,800, depending on what units we're making. So I always try to plug that on Facebook, and people sometimes get sick of it. I'm like, if you're a young man and you don't have any direction, and you're like, I need to start somewhere. It's like, go try to get in this industry, try to make a little bit of money, and give yourself time to decide. Because that's one of those things where you've got a lot of young men who don't know what they're doing, and they're working jobs making $20 an hour, and there will never be certain opportunities to them because they just don't make enough money.
Right.
So I was working that, hadn't been using my marketing major, and I was like, I can do marketing, but it's like, I've got to convince them to take me. So I'm like, I'm like, okay, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. I'm like, free advice, just like, take it with you, take what you want of it. I will try to make pipes if I have to, like, I'll do anything. And they're like, we really don't want a fourth guy. We really don't want a fourth guy. We already have 3, And then the guy who went to my church, who I was closest with at the time, he was the one who's like, I don't think we should be bringing on McAllister. Like, the more people you bring on, the harder it gets. And so he was the one guy who was like pushing back. And then finally they broke down, like, you know what, fine. You can be part of it. We don't care. You can help out. I'm like, sweet. And so that's how it started, was me trying really hard. And then I've just been trying to go all out to make sure that they don't regret that decision to bring me on. And I think it's going very well.
Yeah. So many different avenues I want to discuss. But name of the business is Frog and Fable. Tell me, what does that mean?
Okay, and I realize as I'm giving questions, like, I'm talking a really long time. I'm going to try to shorten it up. I'm very long-winded as an age. I have 7 kids. I grew up with, long-winded naturally, and I'm used to being interrupted because we're all talkers. So when you have the platform, you can just talk as long as you want. You kind of end up like Michael Scott. Like, sometimes I just start talking, like, man, no one's interrupting. I'm just going to keep going and going and going. Like, boy, boring myself.
Then you realize you're filibustering.
Exactly. So I'm sorry, I'm going to reel it back.
You're good, both.
Frog and Fable, we wanted to capture the American heritage aspect of things. It's like, what is truly American? And there's already a bull moose tobacco. We're like, bull moose tobacco, masculine, American. There it is. We're done. Let's get out of here. And then there's a bull moose cigar. Okay, so we're different, but it's like, we don't want to compete with that. We don't want to stir up dust right off the beginning where we're like, there's a lawsuit about the name. So we considered going very forward-facing with Christian, where I think I forget the name. It was something light, but it was a Latin phrase, and it was like, we liked it because it had like the Christian aspect, where it's like, okay, this is like a Catholic phrase that had something to do with light, and it's like, okay, tobacco, you're lighting something up. It could make sense. But it's like we lost the American aspect, and we were also not just trying to serve Christians. Like, we want to be a successful company that is Christian in nature, but serves everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't want to isolate ourselves or put ourselves in that box, because although you have a really good shot of getting a lot of the market for the reform circles, like Patriarch Cigars and 1689 Cigars, you can't isolate yourself from the broader reaches of your community within the pipe tobacco. So we didn't want to do that. So we're like, okay, American, what do we want? Like, okay, well, we all caught frogs growing up. It's like, I think that's a very American thing. Like, for boys, it's like, oh yeah, you go out to the creek, catch frogs, catch turtles. You look for animals and whatnot. So, like, frog, and Seth especially had a really soft spot for frogs. He loves frogs. And then this other aspect of, like, storytelling, of heritage, of where do we come from? It's like, what are we passing down? And heritage was something we're like a word we really liked, and we tried to incorporate that. But Fable just had a little bit more richness to it. And also, it's 2 F's, so you have Frog and Fable, you can put the FF. But the Fable's like, we live in a world that is, our lives are a story. And sometimes they're more epic than others, but like we all have stories to tell. And one of the things about pipes is you're sitting around, you're talking, you know, you're jabbing at each other. It's like there's a story element, I think, with smoking that ties in nicely. Uh, and we're like, okay, Frog and Fable, we're American storytellers. Uh, there's a masculine aspect about it. Because not that girls don't like frogs, but it's very much like if you look up tobacco, there's like Frog Morton. There are a lot of frog tobaccos, like artwork and stuff like that. It's just there's something about frogs that men are like, yes,
Yeah.
I like that.
Well,
As
pipe
long,
smoking tends
yeah,
to be universally masculine.
yes. So it's like we wanted something masculine. We wanted something that was American. We wanted something that like had that longevity. And Frog and Fable was like one of the first names they came up with, and we had a session where uh, we're just throwing out all these names, most of them just terrible, absolutely awful names. Where I was like, we would never buy this, but we're just trying to be funny. You know, four guys in a business set, like with our business, everything on the line. We're like, okay, we're going to try to like invest tons of money in this. And for hours, we're just coming up with the absolute worst names we could think of just to try to make each other laugh. And we're like, we're supposed to be like doing something productive, but there's just something about like who can be the worst at what they're supposed to be doing in this moment. And it was just a little competition for, like I said, 2-3 hours where we went up and our wives were like, okay, have you got a name? And we're like, yes, we have a name. It's like, it is atrocious. It's like, but then they're like, okay, well, you probably should actually try hard to like come up with an actual name. I'm like, okay, we probably should. And then after that point, we're like, okay, are we just going to go with Frog and Fable? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, good, done. So we like for 3 hours just came up with terrible names. We already had Frog and Fable on the table, and then it just took like 2 minutes where it's like, so are we doing this one? And like, yeah, we're going to do that one. And then we just moved on.
Yeah, there's something you hit on just there. I think that's really good. This idea, and this is why. So I started smoking a pipe. I think when the lockdowns were happening. And one of the things that I remember growing up is I remember the smell of that like old timey cherry tobacco. Just my great grandpa smoked it. I remember that smell. And when the lockdowns were happening, I was so I'm a Southerner. I'm born in North Carolina, in a small little town called Moxville, and I'm in New England. So I'm like very much out of my element. I've been here since 2013, and I still feel like that ache of biscuits and gravy in the morning, sweet tea at every meal, like that just still pulls me. So I'm listening at this point to like a lot of Johnny Cash. I'm having a lot of nostalgia about back home, and I just remembered my great grandpa smoking this pipe, and I was like, huh. I wonder what that's like. And then I would just sit on my porch during the lockdowns, and I would think, and I would meditate. I would even pray. And as I'm trying to figure out how to smoke this pipe, and that's another element I'd love to talk about with you as well. But this idea, first off, this idea that things move so fast in our culture. Um, Twitter, the tickers on the news, like it just in order for you to feel like that you're connected to this society, you have to be on a treadmill on like level 10. And pipe smoking is so different. It really slows you down. It makes you it makes you breathe like intentionally. It makes you sit there and be present with your surroundings. It makes you attentive. It makes you mindful. And it's such a good discipline, even if for nothing else. Like maybe you don't smoke a pipe, but it's such a good discipline just to slow yourself down because we're being ran ragged in a lot of ways in this society and culture. So um, I I just wanted to say that to the listener, that's a huge draw, especially for men, just to for a moment in a day to be able to stop and slow down and think, and maybe even use that time to pray or to think about scripture or whatever, you know.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but even on the times where we are slowing down, it is so hard not to pull out your phone. We're
Oh
like, I'm
yeah,
just going to take 5 minutes for myself, and you're sitting there. left alone with your thoughts, and then just out of habit, your hand's reaching for your phone, and then you're on your phone all of a sudden, and it's not a moment of true solitude. It's not a moment of actual reflection. It's just like, okay, I'm,
Right.
a mental break that turns into an absence of like any mental activity at all.
Right.
Whereas a pipe, I don't know about you, but when I'm holding the pipe, it's like I'm not on my phone. It's like my hand that would be going for the phone has the pipe, and so you don't just naturally grab for it, and then you're outside typically, and you're just like, okay, you've got a mouthful of smoke. You're holding it for a second. You're taking in your surroundings, and there is a true moment of reflection where your mind has a chance to wander, has a chance to process what's going on around you, as compared to you go out, I'm going to get some fresh air, you sit on the porch, and unless you're very cognitive of your surroundings, your hand naturally goes to that phone. And then all of a sudden you've lost it. You've lost that true moment of like slowing down, because then your brain's still like, okay, I need that dopamine. Whereas with a pipe, it's like you're slowed down, which is just excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good point. And also it feeds into why I think pipe smoking has always been sort of a niche community among the larger smoking community, because it's not easy actually in order to smoke a pipe. It's more finesse. It's more it's an art. It's really like, it's not really a science, it's an art. But keeping the bowl lit, keeping the the tamp, knowing when to tamp it at the right time, or when to aerate it, or like there's all of these different parts of it that connect you to the process, that makes you be present by necessity, where you can't just kind of lazily like hold a cigar. I mean, I'm not saying anything about cigar smokers or anything. I'm just saying, like, you can't, it just doesn't stay lit like a cigar does. You have to actually be present with the process, which I think, to your point, makes you slow down and gives your brain a chance to actually be creative again.
Absolutely. Which, when cigarettes first came out, no one went for them. They're like, cigarettes, like women can have cigarettes. We don't want cigarettes. It's a very feminine thing. Because they were convenient. That was the whole thing they were being sold on, was convenience. And they're like, no, it's not worth it. And then they were so cheap. And World War, I think, II hit or whatever. And then it was like, you had one of the World Wars hit. And then it's like, oh, the convenience became a really big thing, because you can't be spending time lighting up a pipe when you're out in war. It's like, you just light a cigarette, you go. And they are addicting. And also, the first cigarettes had asbestos filters. That was like, okay, we want to filter this. What's the best thing to make first filter? Asbestos. That's what we're going to go with.
Right.
So,
like a good case of mesothelioma.
Exactly. So right off the bat, cigarettes has been awful from day one. Just awful.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that before. The convenience factor, along with the time. Like, if you're a soldier and you're behind enemy lines, and you have the opportunity, which at nighttime you're probably not going to, but during the day you have the opportunity to smoke. You're not going to take 45 minutes to smoke a bowl. You're going real quick, done, and you're back at it. Like, that really eliminates all of the benefits of what we're talking about, is slowing down, being mindful, being creative, being contemplative, solitude. These are disciplines that the modern world is losing, if not lost. What we're talking about,
right? And it was completely sold in convenience, and then they got addicted, and then okay, now everyone's smoking a cigarette because it hits much harder. The nicotine level is so much higher than what you'll get from a pipe, and they're coating it with additives and addictives and all these other things. And so then it just naturally, it's like, okay, well, this hits harder. I'm addicted to it, and it's more convenient. Pipes just sort of fell at the wayside.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know the science on this. I don't think it's necessarily, and maybe I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. This is not my field. I enjoy it, but I'm not a scientist in this regard. But the nicotine is, if it is addictive, it's far less addictive than the additives that were being added to these cigarettes that were causing your body to crave them. Is that right?
Yes. That is. the case from what I understand. There's definitely a level of that nicotine plays into as far as like how much nicotine you're getting and if it becomes addictive or not. Because I know there are some people that do struggle with that with Zyn pouches. They're like, oh, I've got to have my Zyn pouches. But as far as I know, the additives in cigarettes are what really get people hooked.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been smoking a pipe, and I was like, oh, I get addicted to things. I don't want to get addicted to, tobacco and nicotine. I'm like, yeah, there's never been a day where I'm like, the pipe. It's just like, oh yeah, like it'd be nice, but it definitely does not have the addictive properties that we are led to believe. It's like, oh, nicotine, tobacco, it's like super addictive. You got to avoid it at all costs. It's not that. It's like there's a lot of fear mongering going on. But I'm sure that there's some level because, like with anything, like alcohol, I don't think alcohol is super addicting. But there are some people that's like, oh, for nicotine or alcohol or something, it's like, oh, that scratches this itch. And for me, that really scratches an itch and I have to have it. So I wouldn't paint with a super broad brush because I know there are cases, but I would say generally it's not. Tobacco in general is not as addictive as people think. It's the additives from the cigarettes.
Well, and in that case, one of the things I really truly believe about like alcoholism, I don't believe that it's a clinical addiction. I believe that it's a person who is prone to addiction, and really it's repentance that needs to happen with self-control and other areas. Somebody may disagree with me on that, but almost every case I've seen is really a self-control issue more than it is a biological dependency. Because I don't know what the half-life is on these things, but after about a week of not drinking alcohol, the biological addiction's gone, and at that point it's mental and spiritual and everything else. So yeah, so I agree with you. Also, one fun fact that I haven't done the studies on this, but I think it's true, and I think this is why they hate it so much. The left and the secular world. I think nicotine actually naturally increases your testosterone, whereas I don't know what year you were born. I was born in 1983. Um, the culture I grew up in was if you have any sort of ambition, any sort of energy, any sort of masculine tendencies, and we just pop a pill in your mouth, which actually decreases your testosterone. So you have these two things like where um, the pipe actually can be a kind of therapeutic, even like just relaxing, calm you down, reset sort of thing, or you can pop a pill, and and which one is actually better for you? There's the stigma attached with the pipe or smoking in general, but this big pharmacy sort of culture is way worse, way worse.
Absolutely. We don't need to get on that tangent of big pharma and how they're trying to make us better by being dependent on pills and whatnot. But just to your point, it is. I started noticing that because someone mentioned like, oh, it does increase testosterone. Like, it's like, well, in my own history, whenever you watch a movie, TV show, you see people, in the wild. It's like the people who are smoking are always like the people that like it's like okay they're masculine men who are putting their masculinity in the wrong things, but it's like they're not effeminate men who are smoking typically.
Yeah.
That's the way I should phrase it, because these men, I wouldn't consider them super masculine because they're not biblically masculine. They're just like, okay,
Right.
they just have this they have this testosterone edge that a lot of other men are lacking. And I think that you see that once like your eyes are open to it, it's like, oh yeah, it bumps your testosterone. It's like, well, that makes sense. The 17-year-old who's smoking with just a full, mustache. It's like that would make sense, But yeah, the pill culture of like, okay, let's make something that curbs this masculine energy is just a shame. Also, like our system is set up for men to thrive.
Right.
We're not set up for to do the things we want because we live in a culture that hates conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And our systems are set up to curb any conflict we can, and men are naturally more prone to that than women. And so in schools, in the workforce, even in churches, it's like we don't want these confrontational situations happening. So we're going to, because it makes the women feel uncomfortable. And so we are going to do everything we can to alleviate that. So in school, if you're rambunctious, it's like, okay, we're going to give you a pill. In the workplace, it's like, listen, if you do anything, or if you have an argument or you're argumentative, it's like, we're going to let you know that you're going to be under disciplinary actions. And I'm not saying that people should just be running around causing chaos, but typically there are systems in place that if you start to stir the water, immediately someone's going to be like, hey, listen, I know you're strongly opinionated and you may have like evidence to back you up, but you can't post stuff like that on Facebook. It's causing division in the church. You've got to stop. And it's like, okay, so we can't have opinions on anything. And that's not even like a controversial topic. It might just be something like, hey, it's like, I think women should head cover because I think that in Corinthians, it clearly states this. And this is my reasoning for it. And then someone's like, well, I'm offended because I don't head cover. I don't think you should be like, and then the pastor's like, well, you're making Mary feel bad. You need to stop posting stuff like that because she feels kind of convicted and she doesn't, and it's like, and no one knows for sure if we are. So it's like, you just need to stop posting that. We curb masculinity and just confrontation everywhere. And because confrontation typically is masculine in nature, we squash that in every level of institutes from a childhood.
Yeah, and you hit something earlier about this movement to sort of hate America, hate our heritage. I think it plays into what you're saying about the masculinity or the squashing thereof, because basically coming out of World War II, you've got nations now who are basically acting out what's best for the global system instead of nationalism. And that's one of the fun things about Trump's presidency so far, is that he's been very nationalistic. But one of the ways to basically ensure that there is no uprising is to squash men, and to feminize men. And what you're talking about is a part of a much broader movement to basically just neuter any sort of testosteronated, I don't know what that word would be, but any sort of ambition, any sort of rigor, any sort of all of that. I mean, you can go to the gym and do that if you want, but all of the masculine personality needs to basically die in order to basically protect the elites from anyone having any sort of revolutions.
Right. And an example of this would be, this is how I knew the system had failed. A couple years ago, I started making mead, and it's super easy. It's super easy to make wine, and mead and beer is a little harder. But I had this realization. I was like, this information's out there. It's super easy. And no teenager is doing this. And it may not sound profound to you, but it's like the one thing that's always like, oh, okay, teens really want alcohol. And so you have two options in front of you. You can either get it illegally, which is like the masculine path that some people take. They're like, oh, I'm going to get wine and I'm either going to like bribe someone, rob, steal it from someone. It's like, that's the path that most people take. It is in the absence. It's not kingdom building. It's like, it's tearing down. It's like, okay, we're going to steal to get what we want. And then on the other path, it's like, okay, you could make this yourself. Like, you could get access to these things that you want. And I was like, okay, the system has failed us because men are not seeing a problem, and just people in general. It's like these young men are seeing something that they want to go after. They're not doing what it takes to like acquire it the right way. They would rather go about an illegitimate way. It's
Mm-hmm.
like an illegal path. It's like, oh, we want alcohol. It's illegal for us to buy it. We will acquire it via illegal means
Right.
instead of being like, oh, I want alcohol. I can make it. Like, it's like there are resources out there.
Right.
And it's like we've been neutered to think, oh, it can't. Like, it's either I have to break the law to do it or I'm not going to do it at all. I've been told I can't.
I either have to break the law or be a perpetual consumer. And what I think you're talking about is there's this masculine tendency to see a problem and make something, build something, fix something. On the entrepreneurial side of things has really been squashed to where a lot of us, and thankfully you and I are not. I don't think you and I are like this. You're starting a business, and I've started a podcast. So like that, those are good things. But so many people are just cogs in a wheel at this point in our culture, and that's sad to me.
Yeah, if it's not provided to us, then it probably means we shouldn't have it or we can't have it. Right. Instead of being like, oh, I could do this, I could make something, and so we just don't have any drive to start something from scratch.
Yeah,
and that hurts to think about because the me thing was just like, oh, this isn't about business. It's just like this is something that people want. And I'm not saying teens should be drinking alcohol. I'd like to be on the forefront of that. I don't think that, but it's like that's what everyone's made to believe. Is like that's the one thing teenagers want: sex and alcohol. It's like, well, you can easily get alcohol. You can just make it yourself, and no one is doing the thing that they want. It's like, and that's why I think a lot of people are unhappy. It's like, well, the government hasn't made a happy program yet, so I'm just miserable because I can't, go out and be happy on my own.
Right. I just listened. You mentioned the King's Hall. I just listened to several episodes in their season 2 where they were talking about father hunger and how government has stepped in as the de facto daddy. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this sort of intersects also with our post-millennialism that we're talking about, because you guys have started this business. We've talked a little bit about the enjoyment of smoking. The goodness of the material world we haven't really touched on, but I think this is a huge point here that so many Christians get tripped up on, and now we'll weave all these thoughts together. But one of the biggest aspects of, I think, having a drink, having a beer, or having a pipe or whatever, is this idea of Gnosticism that's underpinning our sort of Christian reality. Like we have more of an Aristotelian view of how to approach the world than actually the Bible does. So, for instance, in the South, growing up, having a beer was looked down upon, especially in public. And if you're a pastor, don't even think about it. Like, why would you do that? That's sinful. That's secular. And I started noticing that there's so many people who think this way, that there's the sacred secular divide. There's my Bible activities where I pray, I read my Bible, I listen to whatever on the radio. And a lot of that that's marketed to us as explicitly Christian is pretty feminine. So a lot of men just don't participate. And then there's the secular stuff you do, like, drinking, smoking, and all of that. And if you do that, then you're really not a good Christian. I started realizing this 15, 20 years ago or so, and I was just like, why can't someone have a beer and enjoy the flavors and the taste of the hops and be really genuinely curious? Like, there's several different kinds of hops, and they're from different regions, and they have different flavor profiles. And why is that not something that I can use, like in a 1 Corinthians 10:31 sort of way? Whatever I do, whether I eat, whether I drink, do it all to the glory of God. Why is it that I can't glorify God in enjoying a good beer? I understand, like Budweiser and all of that; those are terrible and awful, and they were basically created to get drunk in a cornfield. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a like a an appreciation for the goodness of the world that God made. Same thing with pipes. Same thing with you guys making actual pipes that are well crafted and that are well designed. And so I really see all these themes kind of coming together, and maybe, you could speak to that, but that it seems to me like it's exactly what a Christian would do, is start a pipe company.
Right. So I realize that we're taking a long time, so I'm going to try to you sent up some questions. I'm going to try to wrap up some of the things that you were curious about into this answer.
Mm.
So to start, it's funny because people are like, well, justify why you can smoke via the Bible. It's like, okay, I would say that you can't.
Hebrews says we're in a great cloud of witnesses.
That's right. There you go. We're done. But there's this element of if you can't explicitly prove it in the Bible, this is more so for Baptists. If it doesn't explicitly say something, then and it's perceived as wrong, then we have to prove that it's okay, which is really hard because never stated. So they're like, okay, well, I'm going to say, because it's taboo to some degree, that you're the one who has the proof of that it's okay. Whereas no one's like, okay, you've got to justify why you're allowed to eat strawberry Pop-Tarts. It's there's no mention in the Bible. Yeah. It's you could argue they're not good for you, but no one's like, oh, justify why you're allowed to eat strawberry Pop-Tarts. It's okay, it's not mentioned in the Bible. We have an element in the Bible of there are things that can be taken to an unfruitful end, like alcohol. It's but the Bible multiple times talks about drinking and it being a wonderful thing.
All right.
And so smoking, it's yeah, there's an end where you're this is not good. You can get addicted to it. It can be an unhealthy habit. It can be bad. But in moderation, I would say that it would be a good thing to enjoy the world that God has given us, especially within its bounds. Right. Right.
You drink too much water, you can kill yourself.
Right.
You can literally die from drinking too much water. So this point is just a point in general.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first part is we always put the burden of proof on the person who wants to smoke and not the burden of proof on the person who is saying you can't do it, which I think is odd. Alcoholism, alcohol I can understand. It's there's enough verses where I'm you got to be wary of alcohol. I see where you get that. I see where you get to that point because that's where I was. I'm just not going to drink because that way I know I'll never get drunk. I'll never cross that line. And I drink very sporadically now. I don't enjoy most beers, so I don't drink. Mm-hmm. I like a couple wines and I like a couple mixed drinks, but those are very rare. But I do like Moscato wine. I like the sweetness. I think it's good. Mm-hmm. So I drink occasionally, but I understand there's a biblical argument that I think is flawed with alcohol. Tobacco, it's you would have to prove to me that I'm not allowed to have it, and then you'd have to justify every single thing that you put in your body that you're allowed to do. That's the first thing. Right. You talk about this is just a natural thing for Christians to do. There's just a ton of business opportunities in so many markets that we just don't tap into. 1689 cigars started and it just blew up and it's become very successful because there are Christians who smoke cigars and people weren't providing cigars for Christians, so we're paying money to pagans to smoke. It's okay, well, we should have a cigar company that does that. And it's okay, pipe tobacco. It's well, there's money to be made in this venture. There is a way to do it that is beautiful and wonderful and brings joy in a way that you can't in certain industries. You can craft a beautiful art to put on your tin. You can make delicious flavors for tobacco. You can treat customers with respect and bring up conversations that are good to have in the pipe tobacco community very easily. That is something you can't necessarily do. One of our owners started a company 2 years ago, Drake's Wildlife. It's you can do excellent work in Drake's Wildlife and you can not rip people off. It's but there is an element of you're not stewarding as much because you're just getting rid of animals. You can't steward it as much. Whereas in pipe tobacco, there's a lot you could steward. You can also, there's more room for bringing on people to hire. There's ways which you can enrich your community. And I think that a lot of people, they're okay, I don't want to work for the man for 40 years. It's I don't want to work for a company. It's I want to have a little more control of my life. I'm going to start a business. they immediately think, what can I do by myself that will support my family? Instead of asking, if I took a little bit more of a risk, if I could get some people involved, what could I build that would enrich not just me and my friends, but my church, people that are in my church who need jobs, my community, that it will benefit them substantially to have a business like us here. And we think so individualistically that we do miss opportunities where it's like, okay, this is a very risky endeavor. It's going to take a lot of money and work. But if it succeeds, it's like not only will I succeed, not only will my family succeed, not only my friends, my church, my community, and like there is like we could help the broader, area, the pipe smokers as well, Christians out there. Like the possibilities are so much larger if you think bigger than just what does my family have to survive.
Like, yeah, and I think I think about um, just the idea of Martin Luther. This quote, I've always loved it, but I think it applies really well here. There was this man that came up to Luther and said, "Hey, I just became a Christian. What should I do?" And Luther said, "Well, what do you currently do?" And he said, "Well, I'm a shoemaker." And then Luther sends him away by saying, "Well, then go make a really good shoe."
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Right.
one of the things that we've outsourced to pagans, as you say, is the idea of beauty and craftsmanship and good design. Like Apple is known for that, and they have no worldview to actually underpin that. The reason Steve Jobs created Apple was because he had a father hunger. He had an aversion to basically having children. So Apple was his basically he spent his entire life building this company uh, for what now he's gone and that's his child, that's his legacy. Like it doesn't make sense to me that that pagans would pick up this idea of design and craftsmanship apart from stealing a Christian worldview. So if they have to do that in order to just make good products in general, we should be the ones making good products. We should be the ones who are like industry leaders. And I think like for instance, Bach was a pipe smoker. You should check out anyone who's listening his poem on pipe smoking. It's really contemplative and whatever. But Bach was a genius in his field of music. Handel, Beethoven, Mozart. Christians were at the forefront of these industries, creating beauty and creating art and creating culture, and we've lost that. We've retreated to the peripheries of this particular culture that we live in, and we're hiding, and we're trying to just basically hang on and survive like an 18-year-old in a foxhole in World War II. We're scared and we're not advancing. I'm really thankful for companies like yours that's actually bringing Christian stewardship, Christian design, Christian that Protestant Christian work ethic into the market because I think that's one of the ways that our current uh, church, the 21st century American church, is going to have to repent, and
Yeah.
pastors like me is going to have to start discipling men like you guys to go and do these kinds of things. Like you're interested in pipes, go start a pipe shop. Like I would love for us to start that here in Massachusetts, a pipe smoking shop. So good for you guys, man, for doing that and for seeing how it connects with God's good world and all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say one thing. The Amish, I live in Amish country here. Like Indiana is, I think, the third largest state for Amish, and we
Oh
have
wow, I didn't know that.
so it's Pennsylvania, Ohio. So as you like come across, like as they immigrated, Indiana is we have a really big Amish community here. Shipshewana, which is an Amish town, is like our third largest like
Mm.
attraction for Indiana because people come all over for Amish goods.
The
So
Hutterites are there too, right?
the what?
The Hutterites.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I can't speak to that. We have a large Amish and Mennonite community, and the Amish do a lot of things very well, very communal. They they start businesses. I mean, their kids from a young age are like, man, 8th grade, I cannot wait to be done and get into the workforce. I'm ready to build something. Like I'm ready to like start my business, start my career.
Yeah.
And that's how they are. But they miss a lot of things. And one of the things they miss is like this idea of like you've got to be plain, you've got to like not draw attention to yourself. And we have a lot of Amish businesses in my town, Topeka, and one of them just built a storage barn right next to the business. So you've got Main Street and you have like a few businesses, and as you start to get to the outside of town, it's a very small town, but like a few houses from like the very main center where you have like the main 6 buildings that have the stores and whatnot. There's like, okay, well, we need storage for my facility. So they put up right on the sidewalk just a pole barn, gray. The back is facing the road. So it's just like you just see the back of this huge gray pole barn as you're walking, and it's like the 4th building down from like Main Street. And it's a huge missed opportunity to say, for the community, it's like for him, it's like it makes sense, it's practical, but when you're looking at a community saying, how can I make my town better and more beautiful? You wouldn't say like, oh, I'm building an ugly pole barn right in the middle of town where everyone's walking around. It's like, you should look at that and say, we all have to live here. We all want our town to be beautiful. I'm either going to make a beautiful barn to store my stuff in, or I'm going to put my storage somewhere else where it's not right on the road. I mean, there's multiple ways you can do that. But Christians so oftentimes are like, what's the most practical way I can like make this work? And I think we should be asking, it's like, what would be the most glorifying to God first? But then it's like, but how can I benefit my town as well? Like, how can people be excited to support Christian business? Because if Christian businesses are putting ugly warehouses everywhere, as a metaphor, it's like we're just putting up ugly warehouses, but we're doing things we're doing things well, and so people like to support our business. It's like people are going to get tired of all the drab ugliness. But if you're putting up beauty wherever you go and you're doing things well, then people are like, I don't know what's going on here, but I like what's happening.
Right.
And I think that that's the approach we should have. Like people should always be excited as Christianity moves into a town, as people are starting businesses. People are like, this is going to end well for us because the Christians are here, they're building, and our town's going to be beautiful, our town's going to be profitable, our town's going to look after one another. That should be the approach. But instead, it's like, oh, we've got a bunch of Christians who are going to oppose what we want to do. That's all they're known for, is opposing things and stopping things from happening, which I think is just a huge downfall of like 21st century Christianity. Is like all we're known for is getting in the way of other people doing stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with what you said earlier in the episode. The time horizon is wrong. We are going to work hard, but we're going to work hard for the next 10 years. And that's our time horizon instead of 100 or 1,000. We're going to do things that are going to continue to be fruitful and continue to bless and we're going to lay old stones that our ancestors are going to come and they're going to look at and they'll be thankful for. We're going to build cathedrals that we won't finish in our lifetime, but we're going to hand our tools off to our sons. We're going to build institutions that are ironclad and not made out of aluminum. You know what I mean? That I think that time horizon shift, it will be such a blessing when it actually happens to the church, when the church doesn't expect that the world's just going to end, in the next, just around the next corner. And we actually take up that Adamic mentality of, okay, God put me in this garden, but I've got to fill it now. And after I fill it, I've got to extend it because I need it to be bigger so more people can be in it. And this idea of everywhere we go, turning it into a garden. I'm not going to put up the cheap plastic knockoff building, in the middle of town. And that might mean that it takes me longer. That might mean that I have to raise more funds. That might mean that I have to slow down. Well, that would be a good thing. Like if we build something that's going to last for a long time, as opposed to something that's just cheap and quick and easy, I think, yeah, could be wrong here, but the former is more biblical. The shortcut, cheap, fast, all that never really ends up well. It doesn't really actually build anything. It doesn't build culture. It doesn't stir curiosity and imagination. It's just easy, and easy is generally not Christian.
Right. If you drive through America, the small towns that are ugly and abandoned are a dime a dozen. It's like, oh, we set up industry here. Everyone came for jobs. Jobs went away. Everything was ugly. We just
Right.
moved.
Right.
But it's like the small towns, though, you go like, boy, it is a beautiful town. It's like, I don't know what's going on here. It's gorgeous. Michigan, just
Right.
loaded with small towns. And you're like, I could see why people visit here. It's like maybe the industry left, but now everyone's just visiting as tourists because they established beauty
Right.
and people long for it.
It's that strip mine sort of culture. We're going to show up, we're going to extract everything we can out of it. We're not going to put anything into it. That's the difference between those towns you're talking about. I live in a town that is hollowed out from the collapse of the Industrial Revolution. Lowell, like there's so many mill buildings that are old and just falling apart, and the town itself has an ethos about it that's bad. It's just depressed. The reason for that is because you set up a bunch of these mills in order to extract a bunch of resources and get wealthy. And then when it all collapsed, when the bubble burst, there was nothing being added in. So I think what you're saying, it just makes so much sense to me that as Christians, we ought to, instead of thinking primarily about what we can take out, we're life givers. We're people who bring life. We inject culture. We bring true, good, and beautiful things. And that's magnetic, actually. When that starts happening, people are drawn to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us, man, where are you guys at in the whole process? Because have you soft launched? Have you hard launched? You is your website up and going? Are you going to be doing shipping? What's your favorite blend? If do you have those, like, where are you at in the whole process of getting this thing going?
Absolutely. We did a soft launch, which just took off. We didn't expect to gain the traction. It was mainly for friends and family. And then we're like, we may as well just throw it out there. And it just sort of took off. And then people are like, where's all the blends? I'm like, well, we were just letting our friends know that this is something we were doing. And a bunch of people were real frustrated because, like, we want tobacco now. And it's like, we are nowhere near ready for tobacco now. We just want to let people know that we have a really fun idea that we're starting. So we've done our soft launch. Hard launch is in a couple months, Lord willing. We will be selling tobacco by the end of June. That's sort of the cap we put on ourselves, but that might get pushed back.
Yeah.
Our website is up. We have, we're going to be putting products on that, non-tobacco products, hopefully in the next month. If you want to sign up for a newsletter on the website, you can do that. You can follow us on Facebook, Frog and Fable. And we do a lot of updates on Facebook, and that's how we communicate mainly. But as far as tobacco goes, we've got shipments coming in. We've got, literally tons of tobacco on its way. We've been blending. We've been preparing stuff. I've been in charge of marketing, but I kind of do things here and there. So we're working on a chai blend that's going to go into an English. So we've got the chai component flavored, and it's really nice. And we're going to mix that with a lot of Kia tobacco.
Mm.
And I really like that. It's a very spicy and like not a chili pepper, but just, there's a lot of different flavors going on type of way. I like that one a lot. That's one, and I can't get into all of the other ones that we're working on right now, but we have just been blessed in a capacity that is unbelievable. Like, if I was charismatic, I'd be like, the Lord wants us to do this in a way that we cannot fail. It's like we need to go out and take every risk we can, because clearly God wants us in here, and we need to just do anything and everything because the Lord won't let us fall, because we've just had that many blessings.
Yeah.
But it's just been incredible. So we have one of the owners, he's working with some master blenders around the country and getting, personal training from some of these guys. It's been really cool. And in the process, we've got a warehouse, we've got machinery, we are working through blends. It's just a matter of, we said we're going at June. If we get to a point where it's like, okay, June's here, are we going to release are going to be like, you know what, let's take one more month to make sure it's really good. And like, we're not going to like trip at the finish line. That may happen, just because there's been so much going on that's been good. But there's a lot of things that aren't pipe tobacco related. It's industry related. That's been really helpful, but it has made some things harder than others. Whenever you start a business, you're like, oh, this is the path I'm taking. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a bunch of costs I didn't expect. There's a bunch of like opportunities I didn't expect. That's where we are right now. So end of June is where we're shooting for, but that might get pushed back a little bit just to make sure we're bringing a premium product that we're proud of. That's, people are going to be happy with. And so you can follow us on Facebook, or you can sign up for the newsletter on the website, frogandfable.com. And if it's on the Facebook is Frog and Fable. But that's where we are right now. We're really excited. Initially, we were going to be shooting for the fall, but so much fell into place up front where we think we can do it by the summer. Wow. Also, people are you talk about like father hunger. People are like, we want American things here. Yeah. We want American tobacco. The tobacco industry is very much globalized and overseas. And people are like, this is an American product. We want this to be ours.
Right.
And so when we came out, we had just had unbelievable support. And everyone was so excited that they kind of got to the point where like, when are we getting our darn tobacco? And I'm like, it's like we were meeting in a basement with the four of us were meeting in a basement like a month ago and cutting up tobacco by hand. It's like, you got to give us a little bit more time. Like we have things ordered, but we were not ready for the scale at which people were wanting us to go.
Things are often, I don't mean to jump in on this, but things are often a combination of timing and beauty of the idea. Mm-hmm. And there's several factors, right time, right place, all that. One of the reasons why I heard about you is that I was really bummed when Sutliff closed down. Mm-hmm. And then they were bought up by this big global tobacco conglomerate from like Norway or Sweden or somewhere. Yeah. And I'm like, man, Sutliff's a great American company that's now gone. And some of their really good blends from the Mac Baron line and some others are going to be gone. And I'm like, there's a death in that. Like, this company has been around for over 100 years and now it's gone. We still have Cornell and Deal and we still have some others, but I'm really excited that I think the timing actually is going to be is going to be a huge blessing for you. That as that company has sort of died and there's all sorts of shifts in the industry, you guys are going to come in. I think that's why you're getting excitement. I think that's why mm-hmm. people are excited. And then the whole idea of post-millennial, but also we love our country and we're going to be patriotic in that way. All of those things are really cool. And I would encourage anyone, whether you like pipe smoking or not, go to the website, give them a like on Facebook, like support this, because this is what Christians are supposed to do. We're supposed to start things and build things and bring the glory of God everywhere that people are. And if people like pipe smoking, we should glorify God there. One of the things that is, when the Bible says in Habakkuk 2:14 that the glory of the Lord will cover the earth as the water covers the sea, it's because God's people are eventually going to cover the earth as the water covers the sea, because we are the storehouse of God's glory. We're made in his image to glorify him. The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So with all of that, I would encourage anyone, go to their website, frogandfable.com, go to their Facebook page. If you like pipe tobacco and pipe smoking, when will those products be available? And are you shipping? Are you doing domestic, all that?
Yeah, we will be shipping. We will be providing across the country. There are some weird taxes that we have to still navigate. So it's like, as of now, it's like we're planning on shipping everywhere. But I think Idaho has like really high taxes. I mean, in Canada, I don't even know if you can get tobacco shipped in there. So like the domestic is super high and that you're not allowed to ship stuff. Someone was asking about Maine. Like, are you going to ship to Maine? I'm like, why wouldn't we ship to Maine? What's going on? What is the government doing that would like prevent this from happening? So we have to figure that out. So as of now, we're like, we're going to ship across the country. We're going to ship internationally. Hopefully, it's just a matter of like making sure we're compliant with all the laws and not putting ourselves in trouble.
Yeah, it's weird. Like in Massachusetts, we're one of the most highly bureaucratized states in America and probably in the world. But there's some companies that I can order from and get shipped to my house, and there's some companies I can't because, like for instance, if I buy an aromatic that has a little bit of flavor on it, well, that's against the law because that encourages people to smoke. And yet we have weed shops on every corner now, which is ghettoized most of our cities. But that's why we need Christian businesses.
That's right.
Well, brother, thank you, man. This was great. This was exciting. And I hope you and I can stay in touch and follow along with the journey. I'm definitely going to be ordering when the products go live. And I want to support you guys in any way that I can. So thank you for coming on and just sharing what you guys are doing. I hope that if you're a Christian plumber, you see this and you're like, I'm going to start a plumbing company. If you're a Christian electrician, whatever you do, I hope that this encourages you to swing big, swing for the fences, go do something great for the glory of God, take risks, be men. And if you're women, be women. but if you're men, act like it. Let's do something. Let's build for the glory of God. Amen.
Amen.
All right, well, brother. Good to meet you and talk to you. And I will hopefully be talking to you more soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for watching this special episode, and thank you so much for the guys at Frog and Fable for a great interview and for starting a great company. I love smoking my tobacco pipe, and I can't wait to try their new products. Go and check them out on Facebook. Go and check them out on their website. I'll be posting links in the show notes below. But until next time, God richly bless you. We'll see you again next time on the podcast. Now, get out of here.